Okay, so get this. You're in Thailand, walking through this like crazy market, just taking it all in, right? And then out of nowhere, this like super friendly person comes up to you, starts chatting you up, seems really helpful, maybe even a little too helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you might not realize is that you've basically just become the target of a classic scam. They call it the Thai zigzag scam. And
Uh-huh.
even if, like, Thailand's not really on your travel list, stick with us on this one. Because today's deep dive is all about arming you against this sneaky scam. And the crazy thing is, the tricks they use, they pop up everywhere, really.
It's true. And what's interesting about this scam, and scams in general really, is that they really thrive on trust,
Mm.
especially when we're, in a new environment. We
Yeah.
tend to let our guard down a bit. We're more open to new experiences, meeting new people. And scammers, they totally exploit this. They're masters of what we call social engineering.
Social engineering. Okay, so for someone like me, who's not exactly up on all the lingo, what does that even mean?
Yeah. So it's basically the art of manipulating people into giving up information or, doing things they wouldn't normally do. Think of it as like psychological manipulation.
Okay.
In the case of the Thai zigzag scam, it's all about building that rapport, creating this illusion of like friendship or even authority to gain your trust. And the sources you provided, they highlight just how clever these scammers can be. They might pose as anything really, from, a harmless local to a government official, sometimes even flashing fake IDs to make it all seem super legit.
Whoa, fake IDs. That's pretty intense. So let's say like they've successfully charmed their way into your good graces. What happens next?
Well, that's when they introduce the bait. Something that seems like fun, innocent, even a little exciting. A game. It could be anything, really. From a simple card game to a guessing game. Something that makes you think, hey, I could totally win this.
Oh, yeah. I can totally see myself falling for that, especially on vacation, right? You're feeling adventurous, maybe a little competitive, but there's obviously a catch, right? This is where the whole zigzag thing comes in.
Exactly. The game is rigged, of course. But it's not just about making you lose, it's about making you almost win. That's the key to the zigzag element, a series of choices, or actions, really, that seem logical, but are actually subtly manipulated by the scammer. Imagine, like, a street game where you're presented with, say, 3 cups, and you have to guess
Huh?
which one hides the ball.
Okay, yeah. Classic street game. Seems simple enough.
But here's the twist. Each time you guess, the scammer introduces, like, a new rule, a slight change in how the cups are moved, or some complex pattern you need to follow. And they make it seem like these rules are just part of the game, adding to the challenge.
Right.
You think you're getting closer to winning, but in reality, you're being led down a carefully calculated path to lose.
So it's like
Yeah.
you're playing the game, but you're also playing right into their hands without even realizing it.
Precisely. This is where the sources you provided, they really emphasize. The psychological manipulation. At play, it's not just about the mechanics of the scam. It's about understanding why it works. And one of the key reasons is that it taps into our natural desire to solve puzzles, to like crack the code.
Wow. So you're telling me these scammers are basically amateur psychologists, like studying our behavior, figuring out how to exploit our weaknesses.
In a way, yeah. They're incredibly perceptive, often targeting tourists who might be feeling a bit vulnerable, out of their element. They might even go as far as like sharing personal stories, creating a false sense of connection, all to make you drop your guard. It's all part of the social engineering we talked about earlier.
Wow. Okay. So we've got the initial approach,
Yeah.
the friendly facade,
Yeah.
then the seemingly harmless game,
Yeah.
and this zigzag element. That keeps you hooked. What happens once you inevitably lose? Because I'm guessing nobody actually wins these games, right?
You're absolutely right. And that's when we move on to the next phase of the scam. But we'll delve into that a little bit later.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. So you've lost the game. Maybe even, like, a few times. But instead of just, letting you walk away, feeling a bit foolish, the scammer pulls out what I like to call their psychological trump card.
Ooh. This is where it gets really interesting. Lay it on me.
They revealed the prize, a wad of cash, expensive jewelry, whatever it would have been if you just, cracked their little game.
Okay. I can already feel the frustration bubbling up just thinking about it. Like, ugh, I was so close.
Exactly, that feeling. That's what they're banking on. It's not just about taking your money. It's about making you feel like you lost something, that you like rightfully earned. The sources you provided, they highlight this really well. It's almost like this twisted form of psychological manipulation,
Okay.
playing on your sense of loss and regret.
Man, that's messed up. But I can see how effective it would be. You're already feeling a bit vulnerable, maybe a little embarrassed. If you fell for it, and then they hit you with this like visual reminder of what you could have won. It's like rubbing salt in the wound.
Right. And that's when they move in for the kill, so to speak. They'll start talking about fees or taxes you need to pay to claim your non-existent winnings.
Oh, wow. So they really turn up the pressure at this point.
Absolutely. They might even accuse you of cheating, try to guilt you into paying up. They create this sense of urgency, this feeling that you need to act now before you miss out on this like incredible opportunity. And in that heightened emotional state, it can be really hard to think clearly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to protect ourselves
Yeah.
from this kind of manipulation? Is it just about like being aware of the scam itself? Or is there more to it?
Well, awareness is definitely key, but it's also about understanding the psychology behind it, recognizing the tactics they use to exploit our emotions. And the sources you share, they offer some great advice on how to develop what they call scam radar.
Scam radar. Okay, I love that. So how do we like tune into our inner scam detectors? What are some red flags to look out for?
Well, first and foremost, trust your gut if something feels off. If the situation makes you uncomfortable, don't ignore those feelings, just walk away.
I think a lot of us,
Yeah.
myself included, we have a tendency to like overthink things, second guess our intuition, especially when you're in a new environment. You might be hesitant to, offend anyone or seem rude.
Right. That's a valid point. And scammers, they often prey on that politeness, that desire to not rock the boat. But honestly, it's better to be safe than sorry. If you have even the slightest inkling that something is amiss, remove yourself from the situation. No prize is worth the risk.
Okay, trust your gut. Got it. What other red flags should we be on the lookout for?
Well, the sources you provided, they highlight a few key ones. First, be wary of anyone who approaches you unsolicited, especially if they're promising easy money or prizes, legitimate contests and games. They don't need to be aggressively peddled on the street.
That makes sense. It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. Another red flag is like overly complex or confusing rules. If you can't understand how the game works, there's a good chance it's designed that way to confuse you, to make you think you're losing because of your own mistakes, not because the game is rigged.
Yeah. It's like those ridiculously long terms and conditions that nobody ever reads. You can't understand it. There's probably a reason.
Right. And of course, the biggest red flag of all, any request for upfront payment, no legitimate contest or lottery requires you to pay to claim your prize. That's a huge giveaway that you're dealing with a scam.
Okay, so if someone, anyone, asks for money, before you can collect your winnings, just walk away. Don't even engage.
Precisely. Now, beyond these general red flags, it's also important to do your research. Before traveling, familiarize yourself with common scams in the area you're visiting. Read up on local laws and customs and just be aware
Of your surroundings.
So basically, it's about being prepared, being informed, and staying alert. Yes. And remember, these red flags, they aren't just specific to the Thai zigzag scam. They apply to scams all over the world. By understanding the principles behind this particular scam, you're actually developing a more critical eye for spotting deception in general.
That's a really important point. So by learning about this one scam, we're actually equipping ourselves to be more savvy travelers overall.
Exactly. You're not just protecting yourself from one specific scam, you're developing a mindset that can help you avoid scams of all kinds. And that's a valuable skill to have, no matter where you travel in the world.
This is all incredibly helpful. I'm definitely feeling more confident already. But I do have one more question. What if, Mike, despite our best efforts, we do end up in a situation where we think we're being scammed?
Yeah.
What's the best course of action?
That's a great question, and something we should definitely cover. Let's dive into what to do if you find yourself caught in the web of a scam.
Okay, so we've talked about, the red flags, the psychology, the whole shebang. But what if, despite our best efforts, we find ourselves in that moment, that heart-sinking moment, where we realize, oh, crap, I think I'm being scammed. What should we do?
Well, the first thing is to disengage immediately. Stop playing the game. Don't hand over any more money. Just step away from the situation.
Okay, yeah, that sounds simple enough, but I imagine it's easier said than done, right? Especially, when you're in a foreign country, maybe surrounded by strangers, feeling all sorts of pressure. What if they try to, intimidate us or make us feel like we need to stay?
You're right. It can be really intimidating. But remember, these scammers, They rely on your fear and uncertainty. The moment you start pushing back, asserting yourself, their power starts to diminish.
Don't be afraid. Be assertive. Even like a little bit forceful if you need to be. What about making a scene? Is that ever a good strategy?
Absolutely. Sometimes drawing attention to yourself is the best way to deter a scammer. They don't want a crowd. They don't want witnesses. They want to operate under the radar.
Right.
So shout, point, make it clear that you're not going to be an easy target.
Okay, that's a good point. It's almost like a self-defense tactic. Make yourself a less appealing victim by making some noise. And I'm guessing if we ever feel truly threatened or unsafe, we should contact the local authorities immediately.
Without a doubt, your safety is paramount. And even if you don't feel physically threatened, reporting the scam to the police can help protect others from falling victim to the same scheme.
Okay, so disengage, be assertive, make a scene if necessary, and contact the authorities if you feel unsafe. Got it. What about after the fact? Is there anything we should do if we've been scammed? Even if, we didn't lose a lot of money.
Documenting everything is crucial.
Right.
Write down everything you remember, the scammer's description, their tactics, the location, the time of day, any details that could help. Identify them, or their methods.
So even if it feels like a minor incident, it's still worth writing it down.
Absolutely. This documentation can be helpful if you decide to report the scam to the authorities or to any consumer protection agencies. Plus, having a record of the event can help you process what happened, identify patterns in scam tactics, and potentially prevent you from falling for a similar scam in the future.
Yeah, it's like the more we understand how these scams work, the better equipped we are to avoid them in the future. And speaking of sharing knowledge, isn't that one of the best ways to fight back against scams?
You hit the nail on the head. Sharing our experiences, talking about these scams openly, it helps raise awareness and protects others from becoming victims.
That's exactly what we're trying to do here today by diving deep into this one specific scam. We're actually equipping ourselves with knowledge and tools that can help us navigate the world more safely and confidently.
It's about empowering ourselves and each other to be more discerning, more aware, more resilient in the face of deception.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's go back to that image of you strolling through that bustling market. But now, you're not just a tourist. You're a traveler with a superpower, scam radar.
You see the world a little differently. You're more attuned to those subtle cues, those inconsistencies, those little red flags that might have slipped past you before.
You're not letting fear dictate your experience, but you're also not naive. You're curious. You're open to new experiences, but you're also armed with the knowledge to protect yourself.
And that knowledge, that awareness, that's what ultimately sets us free to explore the world with confidence and joy.
So to all our listeners out there, stay curious, stay safe, and keep those scam detectors humming.
And remember, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.